Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaganalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakare Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratse Namaha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So I welcome all of you for today's discussion on second canto, fifth chapter, continuing with verse number 17. So we'll try to complete this section today. I think we had paused at 17th verse. Yeah, we just completed this. So 6 questions Narada is asking to Brahmaji. So in reply, Brahmaji is answering the whole this topic of 5th chapter. Not only 5th, 6th, everywhere he is going to answer. Continue the 8th verse, 18th verse. Yes. Sattvam rajastamaiti nirgunasya gunastraya sthiti sarga nirodeshu grihita maya vibho. So already Brahma has answered 2 questions, Yad Adhishtanam and Yad Rupam, in 14, 15, 16, 17. So till now 15, 16, 17, 2 questions are answered. Yad Rupam. So all the 5 elements are coming from Vasudeva. And Narayana Para Yoga, Narayana Paragati, 2 questions, 2 shlokas that answer Yad Adhishtanam, on whom it has taken shelter. So now we are further proceeding with continuation of the section. So in this section from 18, 19, 20, Chakravarti Thakur says that Lord Narayana is the source and shelter of the whole universe. So is he bound by matter? Is he subjected to illusion? Is he under the grip of material energy? He is Maya Dish or is Maya Vash? So Chakravarti Path says, no, there is a distinction between the Jivatma and Ishvara. What is the distinction? The distinction is Lord inspires and the Jivatma is inspired. Here it is referring to Narada is asking whether Brahma is himself Supreme Person of Godhead. So Brahma is telling, no, I'm not Supreme Person of Godhead, I'm a Jivatma. So Lord is inspiring Brahma, and therefore Brahma is being inspired here. And subsequent 3 verses, 18, 19, 20, it explains about the difference between Brahma or any Jivatma and the Supreme Lord Narayana. So let's continue with this Sattvam Rajastamaiti Nirgunasya Gunatrayo. Yes, devotees can start reading this one.
Translation: The Supreme Lord is pure spiritual form, transcendental to all material qualities. Yet, for the sake of the creation of the material world and its maintenance and annihilation, he accepts through his external energy the material modes of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance.
So Supreme Lord is pure spiritual, transcendental to all material qualities. So he's not bound. He's Maya Desh. He's not Maya Vash. But he accepts external energy for what? For creating material world. Hmm. Yes, Prabhupada highlights in the purport. So whole purport till the time the whole purport speaks about this highlighted thing. What is that highlighted thing? There is a difference. What is the difference between the Lord and the living entity? The Lord is a master of the three modes, and living and is unaffected by it. That is the first three line. And is unaffected and is nowhere built by the Maya. And then, but on the other hand, the Jiva are affected by, are susceptible of being influenced by three modes of nature. So therefore, Lord is Maya Desh. Jivatma is Maya Vash. So then continuing, then what is the relationship of the Lord with the matter or material energy? So material energy, three modes of nature, they are the products of the Lord. They are connected to the Lord. But connection is just like the servant and the master. Like Sachinandan Maharaj, he gives example in his book of Nectarian Ocean of the Holy Name, how one should chant. So he shares the experience when he was as a teenager before coming to Krishna consciousness. He had to mm, work as a paper boy. So when he used to go to view papers to people, to the clients. So at one point of time, there's a big bungalow. And when I entered inside the bungalow, there was a big dog. And as soon as he started entering, the dog started barking at him and started uh, attacking him. And immediately the owner saw it. Just some few inches from Maharaj. Owner told the name of the dog. The dog immediately sat down. There was completely blue. Maharaj was completely blank, and his whole body became cold because the size of the dog was very huge. So there Maharaj writes that should be the mode in which we should chant the holy names. Because like the dog is servant and that owner is a master. So this Prakriti, this material nature, this Maya is like the servant and Lord is like the master. And we are being terrorized by Maya. Mama evam shajiva loke jiva bhutas sanatana mama sashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karashati. All living entities in the material world are being tortured, tempted, tried, tested by Maya. But only when we take shelter of the Lord, who is Master, we can cross over Maya. Mama eva pravadante Maya metam tarantite. Therefore, the connection of from Bhagavad Gita, the connection of the material energy with the Lord is a master, and material nature is his servant. Therefore, Prabhupada concludes the first part of the purport as the Supreme Lord is the controller of material energy, whereas the living entities who are entangled in the material world are neither masters nor controllers. They become subordinate to or controlled by such energy, become Maya Vash. So the whole purport speaks about Maya Dish and Maya Vash. And then Prabhupada concludes the purport with a very nice analogy, which he is going to repeat again in further 4 or 5 purports. After some purports, he's going to quote this again. I think after 2 purports only. So he gives an analogy of the sun. In the clear sky, on the sunny day, the sun is there. But the clear sky with sun present, it's like Goloka eva nivasati akilatma bhuto. Lord Krishna is compared to the sun. The clear sky is compared to the spiritual world. But sometimes, when there is monsoon season or rainy season, clouds are created. But clouds are created by the cause of cloud is sun itself. Therefore, like cloud appears in the clear sky, there is a cloud of Mahat Tattva or material world which appears in the spiritual sky. But the cause of that Mahat Tattva material world is who? Lord Himself. But who is causing it? Apparently, three modes of nature. But Maya. But who is the cause of Maya? Lord Himself. So Prabhupada says the sun is ever increasingly unaffected by a spot of cloud. So also the unlimited Lord is unaffected by the spot of material energy manifested at times in the unlimited span of Lord's rays of Brahmajyoti. So Yad Adhishtanam. So Brahmaji is telling Narayana is Adhishtanam, not I. Why? Because I'm a living entity. What is the difference between living entity and Lord? Lord is Maya Dish and the Jivatma is Maya Vash. So that is the first shloka. So now, what is the connection with the next shloka 19th? Chakravarti Path says that okay, Jivatma is Maya Vash. So he is controlled by Maya. Then how is controlled by Maya? How Maya binds the Jivatma? So answer is the three modes of nature in the form of Adi Bhuta, Adi Atma, Adi Deva. These are Karya, Karana, Kartrutve, which is going to come in the next shloka. But I'm just telling you beforehand because so that you understand what is the next shloka connection with the previous shloka. So gunas are the shelter of our cause of matter, that is Dravya, senses, that is Kriya, and Devatas, that is Jnana. The gunas bind the jiva by this identities. Basically, the jivatma is spiritual. It gets a body, that is Dravya. Then it gets a senses in the body by which it can knowledge acquiring senses, action, karma indriya, that is basically knowledge acquiring senses, and karma indriyas. So the here kriya refers to karma indriyas, and the jnanendriyas are compared to the jnana, that is called as it is controlled by devatas. So this living entity is covered by gross body, then there are karmendriya, then there is jnanendriya. So this is compared to Adi Bhuta, Adi Atma, Adi Deva. So these jnanendriyas are controlled by different demigods. In second kind of Bhagavatam, each and every senses of the living entity is controlled. There is a presiding deity, a demigod for it. Which we'll see. I'll try to show the PPT to make it simple. It is little technical, which we are discussing here now. So basically, because of these three layers, the Jivatma gets covered or binded. So that is the next shloka. Karya Karana Kartrutve Dravya Dhyana Kriyashraya Badnati Nityada Muktam Mainam Purusham Guna. Yes.
Translation. These three modes of material nature being further manifested as matter, knowledge, and activities put the eternally transcendental living entity under conditions of cause and effect and make him responsible for such activities.
Yes, the three modes of material nature being further manifested as matter, dravya, then there should be knowledge, that is jnana, and activities, that is kriya. But it should be how it is matter, activities, and knowledge. That is what Chakravarti mentions. Put the eternally transcendental living entity under the conditions of cause and effect. What is the meaning of conditions of cause effect? Karma bandhan. Because Prabhupada translates in the translation Badnati, condition. As you see in Ishwapanishad mantra 3, Ka Surya Namate Loka, Andena Tam Savrata, Tamse Pratyabhigachanti, Ete Atmahana Janaha. So there Prabhupada speaks about karma bandhan. Why a living entity has to suffer in hell? Because of his choice. Because of his choice, not accepting Isha. Therefore he suffers. Therefore, what is the need for his karma bandhan? Why is bound? That bondage is called as karma bandhan. The conditions of cause and effect actually it means karma bandhan. So to bind him, body, karmendriya, jnanendriya, the whole material world is created. So that is looked as Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, and Adi Atma. So Prabhupada gives the reason why Jivatma, although why Jivatma is subjected to material bondage. So Prabhupada starts the purport with because Jivatma is marginal. It is in between internal and external potencies. Okay. And therefore, because being marginal, therefore what happens? It has a condition, because factual living entity is not meant to be so conditioned by the material energy, but it is marginal. It has a choice either to mean spiritual, internal energy, or to be under material energy. And therefore, we have some living entities who choose to be under material energy because of their forgetfulness. Why? Because of the false sense of lording it over material energy. They come under the influence of such potency and thus becomes conditioned by three modes of material nature. This is the reason for bondage. Then what comes is a detail. This is a principle. So in second canto or any of the cantos of Bhagavatam, there is something, or in all the purports of Prabhupada, there is something called principle. There is something called detail. Detail you may not understand. It has a lot of technicalities. At least the principle you should understand. What is happening, what question is being asked, and what question answer is being answered. Okay, now what is being happening? 18, 19, 20 speaking about difference between Jivatma and Bhagavan. At least this much you should understand. If you are not understanding what is Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, Adi Deva, and Adhyatma, don't worry about it. That is a detail. At least you should be understanding what is a principle. Principle is Jivatma, because of its lording or mentality, it is being born by three modes of material nature. That is what is being told here. And then Prabhupada continues. Yeah, Mataji, can you read the further thing? This external energy of the Lord.
This external energy of the Lord covers up the pure knowledge of the living entities eternally existing with him. But the covering is so constant that it appears that the conditioned souls are eternally ignorant. Such is the wonderful action of Maya, or the external energy, manifested as if materially produced. By the covering power of the material energy, the material scientist cannot look beyond the material cause, but factually behind the material manifestation, there are Adhibhuta, Adhyatma, and Adhidaiva actions, which the conditioned souls in the mode of ignorance cannot see. The Adhibhuta manifestation entails repetition of birth and death with old age and disease. The Adhyatmic manifestation conditions the spirit soul, and the Adhidaivic manifestation is the controlling system. These are material manifestations of cause and effect and the sense of responsibility of the conditioned actors. They are, after all, manifestation of the conditioned state, and the human being's freedom from such a conditioned state is the highest perfectional attainment.
Prabhupada is trying to tell here the Adibhut manifestation. Basically, in each and every birth, we change the Adibhut manifestation. What is that? Karmendriyas. The body remains here only, but Gyanendriya, the subtle body, that binds you till the end, till the time we are not liberated. That goes on. Therefore, what's saying Adibhuta entails the repetition of birth and death with old age, disease. Adhyatma condition the spirit soul. In this life, we are conditioned. If we don't get liberated, we carry the same condition in the next life through the medium of subtle senses or subtle body. And what is Adideva? The presiding deity who controls the Jnanendriyas. So this is a controlling system. So this is how Karma Bandhan, Bhagavatam will explain a little more technical here. So for the presiding deities for all the Indriyas, especially the Jnanendriyas, and the body is having Karmendriya, which we live or change in every birth. Therefore, Prabhupada is trying to tell here, this material manifestation of cause and effect, this is nothing but cycle of birth and death, or karma bandhan. The living entity is responsible for it through the medium of Adi Deva, is demigods, Gyanendriya, and Karmendriya. This is simple, simplified. And what is success? After all, if the conditioned state, the human being gets freedom from such a conditioned state, is the highest perfectional attainment. So what happens? Jivatma, with the practice of yoga, especially Bhakti yoga, can purify its gross body, can purify the subtle body, and can get the eternal spiritual body. That is success. This is the second shloka which mentions the distinction between the Jivatma and Paramatma. So we'll go to the next shloka. Hare Krishna. Saisha Bhagavalinge Trivirete Radokshja Svalakshita Gatir Brahman Sarvesham Mamacheshwaraha. So now, Prabhupada mentioned the purport. The scientists, because of that lack of understanding of unable to see beyond the gross body. They can't see the Adi Bhuta. Can't see the Adi Atma, and they can't see Adi Deva. Therefore, they are bewildered. So now, even those transcendentalists who can understand their spirit souls, but they can't see God. Why? Being bewildered by the mode of material nature. Therefore, they fail to understand that avajananti ma moda asuriptanu ashritaha. Those living entities cannot see Lord as personal, and they sell that Lord is impersonal. This is also because of mode, curtain of material energy. This is third shloka, which Brahmaji is trying to tell to Narada that Jivatma is conditioned to three modes. One, the three modes make a Jivatma conditioned. It's called as Maya Vash. The three modes, the conditioned soul cannot see beyond the body, materialistic, hedonistic three. And even if a person comes to transcendentalism, even if he accepts spirit soul, he can't accept personalism, or he's subjected to Mayavad. So therefore, the last layer of the Maya is to think that one is God. Prabhupada writes in the purport. This is the shloka which speaks about it. That God is impersonal. If God is impersonal, then I can merge in the Lord and become God. So therefore, this is a shloka. Oh Brahman. Yes, next devotee can read the translation of this.
O Brahma, O Brahmana, Narada, the superseer, the transcendental Lord, is beyond the perception of the material senses of the living entities because of the above mentioned three modes of nature. But he is the controller of everyone, including me.
Yeah. So, O Brahman, Narada, the superseer, who is superseer? The Lord, is beyond the perception of material senses of the living entities. That means the living entity is subjected to modes of nature. And because they're subjected to modes of nature, they can't see the Lord. Or they fail to understand Lord as personal. But He is the controller of everyone, including me. Therefore, Prabhupada starts the purport with what? 7.24 to 25. Impersonalists who give more importance to the transcendental rays of the Lord as Brahma Jyoti, and who concludes that absolute truth is ultimately impersonal and only manifests as a form at a time of necessity, is less intelligent. The fact is that such impersonalists are covered by above mentioned three modes of material nature. So 17th shloka speaks about living entities subjected to three modes of nature. 18th shloka, 19th shloka speaks about living entity cannot pursue beyond the body concept. And this 19th shloka speaks about it. And 20th shloka speaks even if living entity comes to transcendentalism, but it gets last layer of Maya that is being discussed here. Yes, Anush, you can read from here. The fact is that
such impersonalists are covered by the above mentioned three modes of material nature. Therefore, they are unable to approach the transcendental personality of the Lord. The Lord is not approachable by everyone because he is curtained by his Yogmaya potency. But one should not wrongly conclude that the Lord was formerly unmanifested and has now manifested himself in the human form. This misconception of the formlessness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is due to the Yogmaya curtain of the Lord and can be removed only by the Supreme Will, as soon as the conditioned souls surrendered unto him. The devotee of the Lord who are transcendental to the above mentioned three modes of material nature can see the all blissful transcendental form of the Lord with their vision of love in the attitude of pure devotional service.
yes, so Lord is the controller of material nature, and living entity subjected to material nature. But still, in all the three purports, 18, 19, 20, if you see the end of the purport, Prabhupada concludes with, although a living entity subjected to three modes of material nature, it is controlled by the material modes, but by surrendering to the Lord, it can overcome. By surrendering to the Lord, it can overcome three modes. By surrendering to the Lord, it can overcome the bodily concept of life. By surrendering to the Lord, it can cross over the last layer of Maya, thinking that Lord is impersonal, or thinking that Aham Brahmasmi, and thinking that I am God. The solution for all three, 18, 19, 20, is how to overcome Maya or three modes of nature is a devotional service to Lord. By unalloyed devotional service to the Lord, Premanjana Bhakti Lochanena Santa Sadar Hrideshu Lokyanti Yam Sham Sundaram Achintya Veda Swarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So that is a conclusion. So now we have covered answer to the two questions, Yad Adhishtanam and Yad Rupam. So now the remaining section from Shloka 21 to 35 is going to answer the third question, Yatha Srishtam, how the creation happens, how the creation of material nature happens. In this, from 21 to 31 is Karana Srishti. Karana is cause. And then 32 to 35 is Karya Srishti, is the effect. What is cause, what is effect? Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu, he creates a Mahatattva. In the, like I told the example of sun and a clear sky. So Lord Krishna is present, spiritual sky is present. And then for those rebellious living entities, the material world has to be created. So Mahavishnu, by his presence, he creates a cloud. And Mahatattva, that is called as Mahatattva. And then he glances the material nature. That glance is called Shambhu, or time factor. And as soon as the glance happens, the Mahatattva, it's like if you take a water or you take some, you want to cook something, you just pour water inside the pressure cooker and keep on the gas. It will not work. You have to switch on the gas to start heating it. Similarly, Mahatattva is like the ingredient, but the glance of Lord Vishnu is like the heat or time factor, which the glance of Lord Vishnu is like the heat which will start instigating the cooking process. So therefore, through the glance, the time factor or Kala, like Kala is referring to Lord Shiva or Shambhu, and the consort of Kala is Kali. Therefore, by the glance of the Lord, three modes are activated. The three modes, Maya is the consort of Lord Shiva, and the whole thing starts happening. So that is called as Karan Srishti. And then once the living entity, devotees can mute themselves. Bhaja Hari Prabhu, kindly mute yourself. So the cause of the whole material world is Karan Srishti, and then over a period of time the assembling happens. That is called as Karya Srishti. This I'll try to explain by a PPT. We will try to see on PPT now. Then this concept will be very clear. Yeah, this is 5th chapter. So what it speaks about? Narada's doubts, convictions, 6 questions. Brahma's clarification and answers. This is the theme of the 5th chapter. This is a very technical chapter. If you are having your own way of attending the session, you're not going to understand this one. I'm trying my best to make it as simplified as possible so that you understand it. So try to be little focused. And if you don't prioritize this session, you will not be able to understand the session. Yad Rupam, Yad Adhishtanam is over. Now, Yad System, we are going to discuss. We have covered this. Yeah. Jiva Tattva and Vishnu Tattva. We just now covered this one. Lord's three gunas through this Maya, three modes control Jiva. People cannot perceive the Lord. Yet system. So before we go to the whole translations, which is really very technical, therefore by reading it, it will be difficult. It will be difficult. Therefore, I'm directly trying to take this. So this is how creation happens. Mahavishnu in the clear sky, who is the swarms of the Lord, he impregnates Jivatmas into material nature, Mahatattva, by the factor of Kala, the Jivatma's karma, and he gives Swabhava to the Jivatmas. This is his goal. But for this, the foundation required. What is that? Like father is there, and father wants to give the living entity a body, but then the father has to get married. Because then mother is there. Then he can give the seed of the child in the mother's womb. So the mother is material nature, Pradhana. So Lord Mahavishnu glances, because Mahavishnu cannot come in touch with Maya. We discussed in the last 17 verses. Maya cannot stand in front of the Lord. Maya is always behind the Lord. Therefore, to the medium of Lord Shiva, or to the medium of glance, the time factor, Lord Mahavishnu impregnates the living entities into material nature. So this material nature is impregnated with Kala, Karma, Swabhava of the living entities. As soon as the glance of Mahavishnu falls on it, it starts activating. Three modes are inactive, undifferentiated, unmixed state. That is called as Pradhana. It's like you put some ingredients into water and just keep it on the gas, or just keep it aside. When you put it on gas, then it becomes Mahatattva. Understood? So as soon as there is time factor activated, that becomes Mahatattva. So Mahatattva is the material nature in touch with time factor. So that activates the whole thing. Then because of three modes, becomes activated in Mahatattva. That is three modes, Mahatattva in Sattva, and then it is in Rajas. It's called as Sutra Tattva. And then from these two factors, majorly from Rajas and Sattva, Mahatattva in Rajas and Mahatattva in Sattva, that is Mahatattva and Sutra Tattva, Ahankara is produced, which is predominantly in Tamas. So there is Ahankara in goodness, there is Ahankara in passion, then there is Ahankara in ignorance. So hope all of you are with me till here. So from goodness, you heard all these things now, till now. Adi Bhuta, Adi Daiva, correct? So what is that? From ignorance, the matter is created. That's called Dravya Shakti. The 10 senses, Karmendriya, all those, it is like Tanmatras and 5 elements. That is the Adi Bhuta. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. And Tanmatras are the sense objects. Sight, touch, smell, taste, and then touch, sight, form. There are the elements, sense objects. 5 sense objects and 5 elements. They come under the categorization of Adibhut. So from Ahankara and ignorance, Dravya Shakti, the matter, is produced. That is the effect. And from Ahankara and passion, Karana Shakti, or a Kriya, cause, Kriya Shakti, is produced. That is Adhyatma. What it consists of, as I told, Indriyas, Prana, intelligence, where you can start thinking, feeling, willing. But in ignorance, there is no thinking, feeling, willing. It's just matter, dead matter. And then in goodness, Karta, the doer, Jnana Shakti, there is Adi Deva, the presiding deity of all the senses. They come. So basically, this is the Karana Srishti. So what we are going to see then, in the creation aspect, when this Mahatattva is created, and this goodness, passion, ignorance has to be created. In between that, these 5 elements are shown here, 5 tanmatras and 5 elements. So where the first element, ether, comes from? Anavriti Shabdat. Initially, there is nothing in the material world. From the sound aspect, ether is created. What is sound? Sound you can hear. So from the sound element of ether, when you compress space, sound comes. So therefore, from the sound, ether element is emerging. Ether plus touch gives rise to air. So sound has only one element. Sense perception is only 1 degree. That is hearing. But air, when air blows across you, it goes around your skin, and also it makes sound. When you're sitting in a forest, when you're sitting next to the window where there's a tree, as soon as air comes, you start hearing the sound, and also the air starts blowing over your skin. So the air element has 2 sense perception, that is sound and touch. But again, when this element of air gets a form, air is same. The same tree which is become very dried in a forest, by rubbing of 2 trees, there is forest fire. The fire is a form. Fire has form, fire has touch, fire also has sound. When it starts burning this forest fire, you can hear the fire. You can see, you can feel the hot blowing air, and also you can see fire from the far away. So therefore, fire element has 3 sense perceptions: sound, touch, form. And then when fire is mixed with one more element, the taste. So the water has all these 5 features. What water has? Water, you can hear the flowing water in the river. You can, when you take bath, you can feel water touching, smearing your body. In whatever bottle you put water, water takes the form of a bottle. And you drink water, water has taste. Rasoham apsu kaunteya. And the same thing, the expansion is happening now. When another feature of sense perception added, smell. But water has no smell. Water is pure, water is odorless. When that smell aspect comes, that becomes punyam grandam prithvyascha. Lord Krishna says that when there is rain happening first time in the summer season, the smell of the land, that is this earth. So what is the feature of earth? Earth is smell. Therefore, earth has all things. When you take a stone or when you take a mud, you can make vessels. You can beat it, sound comes. You can touch it. You can give a form of vessel. And earth, in the form of grains, you can taste it also. Because water comes from the earth. It is element of earth only. Water, food, other things. Tree, fruits, it's coming from earth, taste. And then it has also smell, fragrance. So this is how 5 elements. So you're able to see here Adi Bhuta. What is highlighted here? You see here, last part where I'm showing the arrow, Ahankar and ignorance. Ahankar and ignorance. Below that there is Adi Bhuta, Dravya Shakti, matter. There are 5 tanmatras and 5 elements. This is 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. And this sound, touch, form, taste, smell is a tanmatra. What is the meaning of tanmatra? Sense objects. For nose you have smell, for tongue you have taste, for Gyanendriya, I'm speaking about the Gyanendriyas now, knowledge acquiring senses. That which hooks the knowledge acquiring senses is called as sense objects. ज्ञानेन्द्रिया को जो पकड़ता है उसको बोलते हैं तन्मात्र. So for tongue you have smell, for tongue you have, for nose you have smell, for tongue you have taste, for skin you have, for eyes you have form, sight, and for skin we have touch, and for ear we have sound. So now Jivatma has to enjoy material world. So a simulated world has to be created for the enjoyment of the Jivatma. So Lord Vishnu creates the Pradhan and puts Kala Karma Svabhava, activates Mahatattva is created, Mahatattva and Sattva, Mahatattva and Rajas, and actually Mahatattva and ignorance creates the body of the living entity. And Mahatattva and Sattva and Rajas, they give enjoyment of the heavenly pleasure, are the transcendental effect of Tapoloka, Janaloka, Maharloka, the type of experience. So that Mahatattva and Sattva gives that. But for those who want to enjoy material world, for them Mahatattva and Ahankara gives the body, which is animalistic, or which is like we say, the spirit is strong, but flesh is weak. So in the Bhumandala, people basically enjoy based on the bodily consciousness. So that comes from Ahankara in ignorance. Mahatattva in ignorance, that gives Ahankara. Mahatattva in ignorance gives rise to false ego. And then false ego also, in the Ahankara also there is ignorance. We get this Adibhuta, Tanmatra and 5 elements. Then from the Ahankara passion we get Prana, Vayu which comes, and Gyanendriya, Karmendriya and intelligence. So intelligence is in passion. And then from Ahankara and goodness we get what? Adideva, that is sense devatas and mind. So mind is in goodness. So therefore we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Mind, by mind we can, intelligence is very passionate, but if we can focus on the mantra, so mind which is in goodness can engage all the intelligence and senses in the service of the Lord. So this is what Burijan also writes in his book of Japa, where he says that how we can control the mind. Mind can be controlled by just focusing on mantra, because mind is in goodness. Mind needs some engagement, but if it gets a sustainable engagement, it can easily get hooked to the service of the Lord. And what are 10 devatas, sense devatas? 10 sense devatas are: for ear there is Dig Devata, for eyes there is Surya, for skin there is Vayu, for nose there is Ashwini Kumaras, for tongue there is Varuna, taste, for hands there is Indra, for feet there is Upendra, for voice there is Agni, for anus there is Mitra, and for genitals there is Prajapati. So this is Karan Srishti. From shloka number 21 to 31, this is what we are going to discuss. Why I told it? So that this bird's eye view is in front of you, so that when you read the text now, it becomes very clear to all of you. Out of 23 elements, the 23 elements consist of Mahat Tattva, Ahankara, 5 Tanmatras, sound, touch, form, taste, smell, then 5 gross elements, air, earth, water, fire, air, ether, 11 senses, 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Gyanendriyas, and mind. Mind is 11 senses. So 11 senses refers to 5 Karmendriyas. What are the Karmendriyas? Hand, leg, then anus, then there is genital, there is tongue, then there is mouth. These are 5 Karmendriyas. 5 Gyanendriyas: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Mind. So everything is now in front of you. This Karmendriya Gyanendriya is not mentioned. I just told it to you. So these are the mentioned here. Senses, if you can see the Gyanendriyas: ears, this side. Ear, eye, skin, nose, tongue, this is Gyanendriyas 5. Hands, feet, voice, and genital, these are the Karmendriyas. These are the 10 Dig Devatas, sense Devatas. These are Tan Matras. These are the 5 elements. And here there is Ahankara, then there is Mahatattva. These are 23 elements which the material world constitutes of, for giving an opportunity for the Jivatma to enjoy the material world in absence of the Lord. Okay, so this much Lord has to take a headache for the Jivatma. It's a burden of love for the Lord, because to give an experience for the Jivatma, it's like Prabhupada was telling once a pastime. His son was very adamant. He was very adamant that he wanted to poke his hand inside a fan. And Prabhupada switched off the fan and told his son, better now put the hand in the fan. And the fan was rotating. It almost came The RPA was reduced, speed was less. Then little bit touched the hand and he was like, he removed the hand. He got experience. So this is what Lord does with the Jivatma in the material world by creating all these things. So now we'll continue with the shlokas. Okay, so this is Karana Srishti. Karya Srishti is very easy. It's just assembling process. Once the manufacturing products are ready, Maya assembles it. Yeah, we'll continue this. Kalam karma subhavam cha maesho maya svaya atmam yadrichya praptam vibhubhushu rupadade. So kalam karma subhavasya. Time, fate, nature of what? Jivatma. Mayesho, by the potency of Maya. Isha, Lord. Maya, he engages with his own Maya. Atmam yadrichya, by his own sweet will. Praptam. Vibhubhushara upadade, by the time factor. Yes, Prabhu. Next devotee can read this.
By his own potency, the Lord, who is the controller of all energies, thus creates eternal time, the fate of all living entities, and the particular natures the living entities had accepted for being created again before they had independently merged into him.
Yes. So Lord engages his external energy. Because he is internal energy, external energy, all energies under his control. Thus he creates eternal time. The Swabhava, the Kala, then the Karma, and then the Swabhava, particular nature of the living entity. And accepted for being created again. Because the living entity desires to enjoy, then Lord has to create time, Karma, Swabhava for that. And he does it by his own free will for giving an opportunity for living entity to act independently. Yes. Mataji can continue this yellow.
The material creation is something like a cloud in the unlimited sky. The real sky is a spiritual sky, eternally filled with the rays of the Brahma Jyoti, and a portion of this unlimited sky is covered by the Mahat Tattva cloud of the material creation, in which the conditioned souls who want to lord it over the material nature against the will of the Lord are put into play as the desire under the control of the Lord by the agency of his external energy. As the rainy season appears and disappears regularly, the creation takes place and is again annihilated under the control of the Lord, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 8.19. So, the creation and annihilation of the material world is a regular action of the Lord just to allow the conditioned souls to play as they like and thereby create their own fate of being differently created again in terms of their independent desires at the time of annihilation. The creation therefore takes place at a historical date, as we are accustomed to think of everything which has a beginning in our tiny experience.
Yeah. So somebody has a question, may have a question. So creation is happening for the first time. So how come the karma and swabhava of the Jivatma is coming? It's cyclic. Lord's creation is eternal. When the Jivatma was created, Nate Jatum Jatunasham, Nate Janadipaha, nobody can trace the history of when creation happened, when the Jivatma came into existence. Because it's like an author who is writing a book and somebody asks the author of the book, where is your name in the book? Author has created the timeline. Author's name is outside the cover page. It's not in the chapters. It is not even in the introduction. It is in the preface, or it is in the first page of the book. There is name of author. Apart from that, there is nothing. Similarly, God creates a material world, and therefore Lord is outside the time domain. So time domain is only created for the Jivatmas to enjoy, but the time is subservient to the Lord in spiritual world. So therefore, we are subject to the time dimension, and therefore we always think, okay, tomorrow morning 4:30 I have to get up, tomorrow at 8:30 I have to go to work, tomorrow at 9:30 I have to come and take rest. This time is present in the material world, but this time is presence by its absence in the spiritual world. So when Lord's Leela happens, that time will remain at 12 o'clock only to facilitate that Leela. For example, in the Sharad Purnima day when Lord plays the flute in 10th kind of Bhagavatam, or if you read Krishna book, the Ras Leela of the Lord went for Kalpas. And the demigods were standing with their spaceships. They were washing it. It was almost like till the end of the for one day of Brahma that went on. Prabhupada writes in that purport. That means what? So when Lord comes in the material also, he brings the ambience of spiritual in the material world. So therefore, because we are subjected to time, we get the question how in the beginning of the creation how Swabhava and Karma came. But for the Lord, it's like Jivatma. It is like a cyclic. The creation and the annihilation, creation and the annihilation is cyclic. Therefore, based on the previous kalpas and based on previous births, whatever the Jivatma had, the karma and Swabhava, Lord starts with that. So we can't trace because we are in the middle world. So these questions of time factor, it's puzzling for us. Why? Because we're subject to three modes, like three reasons. Lord is Mayadish, we are Mayavash. The scientists, they cannot understand Adi Deva, Adi Bhuta, Adhyatma. And even transcendentalists, they can't understand the personalism of the Lord. So if these three factors, in these three ways, the Maya is binding the living entity. So how is it that we can, with our own intelligence, try to understand Lord? It's not possible. So therefore, this is what Brahmaji is trying to explain through this shlokas of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so just go ahead. The next shloka. Kalad guna vitikara parinama subhavatah karmano janma mahata purushadishtitat abhut. Yes, next devotee.
After the incarnation of the first Purush, Karnodakshai Vishnu, the Mahattatva or the principle of material creation is generated, and then time is manifested. And in course of time, the three qualities appear. Nature means the three qualitative appearances. They transform into activities.
Yes, you can read. Perfect.
By the omnipotency of the Supreme Lord, the whole material creation evolves by the process of transformation and reaction one after another. And by the same omnipotency, they were wound up again one after another and conserved in the body of the Supreme Kala or time. In synopsis with nature and is the transformed manifestation of the principle of the material creation. As such, Kala may be taken as the first cause of all creation. Then, by transformation of nature, different activities of the material world become visible. Should I continue, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
These activities may be taken up as the natural instinct of each and every living being, or even of the inert object. And after the manifestation of activities, there are varieties of products and byproduct of the same nature. Originally, these are all due to the Supreme Lord. The Vedanta Sutra as a Bhagavatam does begin with the absolute truth as the beginning of the creation. Janmadeyasya yataha.
Yeah. So this is the first part of the slide where Mahavishnu, Kala, Karma, Swabhava. So Mahavishnu gives rise to this Kala, Karma, Swabhava. Then three modes come into the picture, and by the activation of three modes, Mahatattva is formed. Pradhana is now, right now it is Pradhana. Now what is going to come is Mahatattva. So Mahavishnu creates Kala, Karma, Swabhava. Now in the 22nd shloka is created the Pradhan, which is without the interference of the time factor. Now when time factor interferes, it's like putting ingredients. You want to make sweet rice, okay, put milk, put rice, and then boil it. So that is going to happen in 23rd. So what happens from that? As soon as time factor is activated, then Pradhana becomes Mahatattva. So Mahatattva in passion, Mahatattva in goodness, Mahatattva in ignorance. Mahatastu vikurupanath Raja Sattvopabrahmitah Tama Pradhanastva Abhavad Tva Abhavad Dravya Jnana Kriyatmaka. Yes. Next.
Material activities are caused by the Mahat Tattvas being agitated. At first, there is the transformation of modes of goodness and passion, and later, due to the mode of ignorance, matter, material knowledge, and the different activities of material knowledge come into play. Material, shall I continue, Prabhu?
Yes, yes.
Material creations of every description are more or less due to the development of mode of passion, rajas. The Mahat Tattva is the principle of material creation, and when it is agitated by the will of the Supreme, at first the modes of passion and goodness are prominent, and afterwards the mode of passion, being generated in due course by material activities of different varieties, becomes prominent, and the living entities are thus involved more and more in ignorance. Brahma is the representation of the mode of passion, and Vishnu is the representation of mode of goodness, while the mode of ignorance is represented by Lord Shiva, the father of material activities. Material nature is called the mother, and the initiator for materialistic life is the father, Lord Shiva. All material creation by the living entities is therefore initiated by the mode of passion. With the advancement of a particular millennium, the different modes act by gradual development. In the age of Kali, when the mode of passion is most prominent, material activities of different varieties, in the name of advancement of human civilization, takes place, and the living entities become more and more involved in forgetting their real identity, the spiritual nature. By a slight cultivation of mode of goodness, a glimpse of spiritual nature is perceived. But due to the prominence of mode of passion, the mode of goodness becomes adulterated. Therefore, one cannot transcend the limits of material modes, and therefore realization of the Lord, who is always transcendental to the modes of material nature, becomes very difficult for the living entities. Even though prominently situated in the mode of goodness through cultivation of the various methods, the gross material elements are Adi Bhutam. Their maintenance is Adi Daivam, and the initiator of material activities is called Adhyatmam. In the material world, these three principles act as prominent features, namely as raw material, its regular supplier, and its use in different varieties of material creations for sense enjoyment by the bewildered entities.
Yes. So Prabhupada makes it very, very clear here, the definition of Adibhuta, Adideva, and Adhyatma. So Adibhuta is matter, Adideva is the sense devatas, and Adhyatma is the living entity with Gyanendriyas who wants to enjoy, wants to dovetail, or wants to lord it over the material nature. So now Pradhana has become Mahatattva. So from Mahatattva, goodness, passion, and ignorance. From ignorance, Mahatattva, Ahankara is produced. So this is a shloka. So Mahatattva and passion, Mahatattva and ignorance, Mahatattva and goodness, and that is called as Sutra Tattva, and then Mahatattva and ignorance is called as Ahankara. This is shloka. So Ahankara iti prokta vikurvan samabhutrita वैकारिकस्तैजसश्च तमश्चाश्चेति यद्विदा द्रव्यशक्ति क्रियाशक्तिर ज्ञानशक्तिर इति प्रभु. So this is three steps mentioned here: Ahankara and Mahatattva and goodness, Mahatattva and passion, Mahatattva and ignorance. So that leads to Ahankara, and Ahankara and goodness leads to Jnana Shakti. Ahankara and passion leads to Kriya Shakti. Ahankara and ignorance leads to Drava Shakti. So 4 steps are mentioned here. Yes. Next devotee.
The self-centered materialistic ego, thus being transformed into three features, becomes known as the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance in three divisions, namely the power that evolve matter, knowledge of material creation, and the intelligence that guides such materialistic activities. Narada, you are quite competent to understand this.
Yeah. So based on translation, it is difficult to understand what is happening. But once you have seen the table, it becomes very easy for you to understand. Basically, Mahatattva and goodness, Mahatattva and passion, then Mahatattva and ignorance is Ahankara, So ahankara and passion, goodness and ignorance is being mentioned here. Yes. Yes, Prabhu. Read the translation. Materialistic ego.
Materialistic ego, or the sense
Oh, materialistic ego or the sense of identification of matter is grossly self-centered, devoid of the clear knowledge of the existence of God. Why? Because it is Mahatattva and ignorance. And this is self-centered egoism of the materialistic living entities is a cause of their being conditioned by other paraphernalia and continuing their bondage of materialism. What becomes? Dravya, Kriya, and Dhyana. The whole body is created because of this ego. And therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, this self-centered egoism is very nicely explained in 7:24-27. Self-centered impersonalist, without a clear conception of personality of Godhead, conclude in his own way that personality of Godhead takes a material shape from his original impersonal spiritual existence for a particular mission. Avajananti ma moda anusham tanum ashrita. And for this misleading conception of Supreme Lord by self-centered impersonalist continues, even though he is seen to be very interested in the Vedic literature such as Brahma Sutras, other highly intellectual sources of knowledge. Basically, Prabhupada is trying to connect this false ego to the Mayavadis. They apparently become spiritual, but because they have so much high opinion about their thought process, they don't surrender. So this is the last layer of Maya, ego. That is what Prabhupada is trying to tell you. This ignorance of the personal feature of the Lord is due to simply to the mixture of different modes. Again, Prabhupada is trying to bring what he discussed in 20th shloka. Same thing was mentioned in 20th shloka of this section. The impersonalists thus cannot conceive of the Lord's eternal spiritual form of eternal knowledge, bliss, and existence. The reason is that the Lord reserves the right of not exposing himself to the non-devotee, even after thorough study of literature. Remains an impersonalist simply by obstinacy. This obstinacy is due to the action of Yoga Maya, the personal energy of the Supreme Lord, that acts like an aid camp by covering the vision of the obstinate impersonalist. Aid camp means when there is a attack by the opposing party, the commander has his soldiers, his lieutenants, his generals to attack. That is called as aid camp in the old English. Such a bewildered human being is described as Buddha or grossly ignorant because he is unable to understand the transcendental form of the Lord as being unborn, unchangeable. So Prabhupada continues like this. Basically, Prabhupada is trying to tell here the reason of a layman who is in bodily concept of life, a reason being a scientist who is not able to understand soul, a reason being even a transcendentalist who is not able to understand the personality of the Lord or personalism aspect and becomes impersonal or Mayavadic. What is the reason? Ahankara is the reason. So therefore, because this Ahankara, which is Mahatattva and ignorance, covers the living entity from understanding the Lord. So therefore, the whole purport is going to highlight that aspect of this Ahankara. Okay. Hare Krishna. To stop sharing the screen. This word is hanging. I'll just try to share it from Vedabase only. Till now, any question?
not a question, not a question, but just comment. Like Mahavishnu, like Lord is so patient. He does so many, I mean, such patiently he does so many things. I mean, so amazing.
Yeah. And not only Mahavishnu is patient, even Acharyas are patient. Even our
Yes.
founder-acharya is very patient.
Yeah.
And we as the disciples of in coming in that parampara, so we should also be patient for our own practice. And also when we try to cultivate potential devotees when they're trying to come to Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, really.
So parampara is of patience.
An amazing knowledge. This is really. So
I think we are in 24th shloka, na? 24th. Go to 20th shloka. तामसादपि भूतादे विकुर्वणात् अबुन्नभः तस्य मात्रा गुणो शब्दो lingam yadrishtar-drishyayo. Basically now once the whole that table from Mahavishnu to Devatas that has been created now. Mahavishnu to Mahatattva in passion, Mahatattva in Shukra Tattva, Mahatattva in goodness, Sattva, and Mahatattva in ignorance, Ahankara. This much has come. So after this, Sukadeva Goswami starts describing about the elements. How air, water, fire, earth, water, fire, air, ether has come into existence. And then he'll again come back to the thing of Dravya, Kriya, and Dhyana. He'll come back to it. Therefore, he's taking a detour and trying to explain on elements. So now this is a section. Yes, next devotee can read it.
Hare Krishna. From the darkness of false ego, the first of the 5 elements, namely the sky, is generated. Its subtle form is the quality of sound, exactly as the seer is in relationship with the seen.
Okay. I'll just go back to the PPT to try to show you where actually we are and what is happening. You see this carefully. Yeah. Now Mahavishnu is done. From Mahavishnu Kala Karam Swabhavit 22nd shloka, 23rd shloka, 24th shloka. Now we are here. This is Ahankara in Tamas. Goodness, passion, ignorance should come na. So this part is directly going here now. We are coming to sound here now. So Ahankara and Tamas, Ahankara and ignorance. Here there are 5 elements. So how these 5 elements came? There are earth, water, fire, air, ether. So the whole focus has gone from here, ignorance from here to 5 elements. That is, this table is going to be discussed of sound, ether, touch, air, form, fire, taste, water, smell, earth. Next, whatever shlokas are going to come subsequently, it is going to go start from sound till earth. Yes. So from darkness of false ego, the first of the 5 elements, namely the sky. What is sky? Sky, another name for the sky is ether. Okay. If you see also carefully, in front of your eyes I'm showing, there is sky here. But when we compress that sky, sound comes. So in the reverse way, from sound, what comes? Ether comes. So it's a subtle form of the quality of sound. Exactly as the seer is in relation with the seen. Basically, both are connected. Seer means somebody is seer and some sense object and senses. That is what is being mentioned here. So the sound is a sense object. The ether is a ground for the senses. Yes, Prabhu. Please continue reading. Jagannath Guru.
Yeah. The 5 elements, namely sky, air, fire, water, and earth, are all but different qualities of the darkness of false ego. This means that the false ego in the sum total form of Mahatattva is generated from the marginal potency of the Lord. And due to this false ego of lording it over the material creation, ingredients are generated for the false enjoyment of the living being. The living being is practically the dominating factor over the material elements as the enjoyer, though the background is the Supreme Lord. Factually, save and accept the Lord, no one can be called the enjoyer, but the living entity falsely desires to become the enjoyer. This is the origin of false ego. When the bewildered living being desires this, the shadow elements are generated by the will of the Lord, and the living entities are allowed to run after them as after a phantasmagoria.
Yes, continue.
It is said that first the Tanmatra sound is created and then the sky. And in this verse, it is confirmed that actually it is so. But sound is the subtle form of the sky, and the distinction is like that between the seer and the seen. The sound is the representation of the actual object, as the sound produced speaking of the object gives an idea of the description of the object. Therefore, sound is the subtle characteristics of the object. Similarly, sound representation of the Lord in terms of his characteristics is the complete form of the Lord, as was seen by Vasudev and Maharaj Dasharath, the fathers of Lord Krishna and Lord Ram. The sound representation of the Lord is not different from the Lord himself. Because the Lord and his representation in subtle are absolute knowledge. Lord Chaitanya has instructed us that in the holy name of the Lord, as sound representation of the Lord, all the potencies of the Lord are invested. Thus, one can immediately enjoy the association of the Lord by the pure vibration of the sound representation of his holy name, and the concept of the Lord is immediately manifested before the pure devotees. A pure devotee, therefore, is not aloof from the Lord even for a moment. The holy name of the Lord, as recommended in the Shastras, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, may therefore be constantly chanted by the devotees, aspiring to be constantly in the touch with the Supreme Lord. One who is thus able to associate with the Lord is sure to be delivered from the darkness of the created world, which is a product of false ego.
Yes. So here Prabhupada is trying to connect this origin of sound. First subtle sound is created, then matra, and from the sound comes ether. So in his book, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes Harinam Chintamani, which Banu Maharaj has translated. He writes, what is the obstacle for a practicing sadhaka to experience this aspect of the sound? Prabhupada is writing here, the holy name of the Lord is not different from the Lord, and the pure devotee can at once be in touch with the Lord. But what is the issue? Issue is false ego. From Mahatattva ignorance, the living entity develops a desire to lord it over the material nature. Because of that, he develops 6 anarthas. And because of that, he develops avidya. So these two things, anartha and avidya, this covers like somebody is wearing spectacle, then some covering is there, some dirty covering is there. So one covering is anartha, another covering is avidya. Because of avidya and because of anartha, we cannot pursue the pure holy name of the Lord. So although Prabhupada is writing here that this false ego can be overcome by coming in touch with sound representation of the Lord in the form of the holy name, but as sadhaka, one has to work on overcoming anarthas by associating with pure devotees. Bhavat seva dwaram ahur vimuktis. And one has to overcome the avidya aspect by reading the philosophical aspect of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And what is that avidya aspect? Avidya aspect, thinking Lord Vishnu to be an equivalent to demigod, or thinking that Lord Vishnu was before impersonal and he's become personal, like a Mayavadis. So that is called as avidya. So avidya aspect, surely when you come to Prabhupada books, it becomes very easy. One can easily cross over. But the anartha aspect, the practice aspect of overcome the 6 anarthas, that one has to work on. So if you can work on the anarthas, and if you can work on the philosophy of avidya, that Lord is non-different, Lord is supreme person of Godhead, then one can access this pure sound vibration of the Lord in the form of holy name. So continuing now, from the sound, the sky is created. So then from what sky, what is created? Sky in Sanskrit is called as Nabasa. Nabashoto vikurvana abut sparsha guno nila. Anila is air. From sky comes air. Sky comes from sound, and from sound and from sky what comes? Anila. Paranavaya cha shabdam vamscha prana oja saho balam. So what air is a cause of prana? And then prana oja saho balam. Vayorapi vikurvanat. So from air, which is also known as anila or vayor, from the transformation of air, kala karma subhavatah upadhayata tejo vai rupavat sparsha shabda vai. So then what comes? Fire. Tejo vai. What it has? Rupa, sparsha, shabda. It has all three factors. Tejasastu vikurvana asis amborasatmakaha. With the transformation of the fire, what happens? The transformation of fire comes ambo. Amba is water. Water has what aspect? Rasatmakam. It is having taste. Rupavat sparshavat chamboho. Rupavat form. Sparshavat. It has touch. Chambo. It has a Koshavacha Paranavat. All four aspects it has. It has touch, it has sight, it has taste, it has form. Then Visheshastu Vikurvana Ambaso Gandhavamabhut. One more aspect of smell. Fragrance comes to what? Earth. Paranvayad Rasa Sparsha Shabda Rupa Gunavitaha. So earth has been transformed now. So from sky to earth, everything is discussed in this shloka. Yes, next devotee can read.
Translation. Because the sky is transformed, air is generated with the quality of touch. And by previous succession, the air is also full of sound, the basic principles of duration of life, sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transferred in course of time and nature's course, fire is generated, taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since fire is also transferred, there is manifestation of water, full of juice, taste. As previously, it also has form and touch and is also full of sound. And water, being transferred from all variegatedness on earth, appears odorous and as previously becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form respectively.
It's about the creation has not happened over suddenly. Prabhupada says it's a gradual evolution, development from one element to another element, reaching up to the variegatedness of the earth, so many trees, plants, mountains, rivers, reptiles. Therefore, it's a gradual, it's an organic process of evolution which is being mentioned here in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, Prabhuji, you can read from this third line, the quality of sense of perception.
The quality of sense perception is also evolutionary, namely generated from sound, then touch, and from touch to form. Taste and odor are also generated along with the gradual development of sky, air, fire, water, and earth. They are all mutually the cause and effect of one another. But the original cause is the Lord Himself in plenary portion as Mahavishnu, lying in the causal water of the Mahatattva. As such, Lord Krishna is described in the Brahma Samhita as the cause of all causes, and this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10.8 as follows. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarva pravardate iti matva bhajate mam bhuta bhava samanvitaha. The qualities of sense perception, I am the source of all spiritual. Okay, the qualities of sense perception. Okay, I will read translation. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everyone emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. The qualities of sense perception are fully represented in the earth and they are manifested in other elements to a lesser extent. In the sky, there is sound only, whereas in the air, there are sound and touch. In the fire, there are sound, touch, and shape. And in the water, there is taste also, along with the other perceptions, namely sound, touch, and shape. In the earth, however, there are all above mentioned qualities with an extra development of odor also. Therefore, on the earth, there is a full display of the variegatedness of the life, which is originally started with the basic principle of air. Diseases of body take place due to derangement of air within the earthly body of the living beings. Mental diseases result from the special derangement of air within the body. And as such, yogic exercise is especially beneficial to keep the air in order to so that diseases of the body become almost nil by such exercises. When they are properly done, the duration of life also increases, and one can have control over death also by such practices. A perfect yogi can have command over the death and quit the body. He is promoted to the region beyond the material and is placed in one of the planets, the spiritual sky, by the supreme will of the Lord, the control of everything.
Yes. Yeah. So Vaikarikan Manojadne Deva Vaikarika Dasha Digvatarka Prachetosvi Vahini Nondrapendra Mitrakaha Vahinin Indra Upendra Mitrakaha. So what are the sense devtas? Now the tanmatras and elements are done. Now we are coming to the table of senses, Gyanendriya, Karmendriya, and the respective devatas. Yes, next devotee can read.
Translation. From the mode of goodness, the mind is generated and becomes manifest, as also the 10 demigods controlling the bodily movements. Such demigods are known as the controller of directions. The controller of air, the sun god, the father of Daksha, Prajapati, the Ashwini Kumaraj. The fire god, the king of heaven, the worshipable deity is heaven. The chief of the Adityas and the Brahmaji, the Prajapati, all come into existence.
Yes. Basically, all these sense devatas come from mode of goodness. We just discussed in the previous two shlokas, Ahankara and ignorance, the 5 elements, and then 5 tanmatras. Now we are coming to Ahankara and mode of goodness comes all the sense devatas. What are the devatas? Dig devatas. Then there is Varuna. Then sun god for the sight. And then there is control of the air, Vayu. Ashwini Kumaras for smelling. Fire god. King of heaven for hand. Varshuliti. Chief of the Adityas. Brahmaji. Mitra for Dhyas. Prajapati for the genitals. These are the different sense devatas for all different senses. So Prabhupada what basically says is each and every sense of our body is controlled by a specific deity. That is all the whole purpose Prabhupada is going to speak about. Mataji, you can just read this purport.
Hare Krishna. Vaikarika is the neutral stage of creation and Tejas is the initiative of creation.
Vaikarika basically means Sattva Guna. Vaikarika is Sattva, Tejasa is passion, and Tamasa is anyway no, Tamogun. So therefore, another name for Rajas is Tejas, another name for Sattva Guna is Vaikarika in Sanskrit.
Hare Krishna.
You can continue.
Tamasa is full display of material creation under the spell of the darkness of ignorance. Manufacture of the necessities of life in factories and workshops excessively prominent in the age of Kali or in the age of the machine is the summit stage of the quality of darkness, such as manufacturing the enterprises by human society are in the mode of darkness, because actually there is no necessity for the commodities manufacture. Human society primarily required food for substances, shelter for sleeping, defense for protection, and the commodities for satisfaction of the senses. The senses are the practical sign of life, as will be explained in the next verse. Human civilization is meant for purifying the senses, and objects of the sense satisfaction should be supplied as much as absolutely required, but not for aggravating artificial necessary needs. Food, shelter, defense, and the sense gratification are all needs in material existence. Otherwise, in his pure uncontaminated state, original life, the living entity has no such needs. The needs are therefore artificial, and in the pure state of life, there is no such needs. As such, increasing the artificial needs adds is the standard of material civilization or advancing in the economic and development of human society, is the sort of engagement in darkness. Without knowledge, by such engagement, human energy is spoiled, because human energy is primarily meant for purifying the senses in order to engage them in satisfying the senses of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, being the supreme possessor of the spiritual senses, is the master of the senses, Rishikesha. Rishika means the senses and Isha means the master. The Lord is not the servant of the senses, or in other words, he is not directed by the dictation of the senses, but the conditional souls are the, or the individual living entities are the servants of the senses. They are conducted by the directions of dictation of the senses, and therefore material civilization is a kind of engagement in sense gratification only. The standard of human civilization should be to cure the disease of sense gratification, and one can do this simply by becoming an agent for satisfying the spiritual senses of Lord. The senses are never to be stopped in their engagements, but one should purify them by engaging them in the pure service of sense gratification of the master of the senses. This is the instruction of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna wanted to first of all to satisfy his own senses by his decision not to fight with his kinsmen and friends. But Lord Sri Krishna taught him the Bhagavad Gita just to purify Arjuna's decision for sense gratification. Therefore, Arjuna agreed to satisfy the senses of the Lord, and thus he fought the battle of Kurukshetra as the Lord desired.
Okay, Mataji, we'll conclude it here. So therefore, we'll go to the next shloka. Prabhupada tries to speak on one has to go from the existence of darkness of this material world to the spiritual world. Basically, he's trying to speak about the senses, because sense there is coming to picture. Senses has to be engaged in Lord's service, and the best way for engaging that Lord's service is there is jnana, there is yoga, but actually the devotee of the Lord, he doesn't deny anything. The enjoyment basically in the disease condition of the life, and aggravating senses gratification in the disease condition aggravates the symptom and worsens the effect. Therefore, by the path of yoga, by the path of jnana, one cannot completely purify senses. At last, he concludes how the devotee of the Lord does not try to deny the senses of the Lord, nor do they artificially stop the actions of the senses like a jnani or a yogi, but they do voluntarily engage their purified senses in the service of the master of senses, as was done by Arjuna, thereby easily attaining the perfection of satisfying the Lord, ultimate goal of all perfection. So therefore, Bhakti Yoga is the best process. That is the conclusion of the previous shloka. So continuing with the creation now, Karya, Karana Srishti, Taijasa tu vikurvana indriyani dashabhavam ध्यान शक्ति क्रिया शक्तिर बुद्धि प्राणश्च तेजसा श्रोत्रम त्वग्राण दृक्जीव वाग्दोर नेत्रांग्री पायवः. So this shloka speaks about the sense, karmendriyas and gyanendriyas. Now sense devtas are mentioned. This shloka speaks about the senses. What are the different senses? 10 senses. Karmendriyas and Gyanendriyas. So next devotee can read this translation.
Hare Krishna. By further transformations of the mode of passion, the sense organs like the ear, skin, nose, eyes, tongue, mouth, hands, genitals, legs, and the outlet for evacuating together with the intelligence and living energy are all generated.
So Ahankara and mode of passion, this senses, and prana is created. Ahankara and mode of goodness, devatas. Ahankara and mode of ignorance, the elements and the tanmatras are sense objects. So this is speaking about the different senses. Yes, to read the purport quickly.
Hare Krishna. The living conditions in material existence depends more or less on one's intelligence and powerful living energy, intelligence to counteract the hard struggle for existence is assisted by the sense for acquiring knowledge, and the living energy maintains himself by maintaining the active organs like the hands and legs. But on the whole, the struggle for existence is the exertion of the mode of passion. Therefore, all the sense organs headed by intelligence and the living energy, pranas, are different products and byproducts of the second mode of nature called passion. This mode of passion, however, is the product of the air element as described before.
Yes. So this shloka basically speaks about ahankara and mode of passion. The intelligence also comes into the picture along with the karmendriya and gyanendriya. And because of this, a person can execute his function of sense enjoyment, or because of this, also he can practice bhakti and engage in the service of the Lord. Yadate sangata bhava bhutendriya manoguna yadiyatana nirmane nashekur brahma vittamaha. Now Karya Srishti. Karan Srishti is done. So now Karya Srishti. So once what all things are created till now, Mahavishnu, he has created Swabhava, Karma, and then Kala. And then he has created the Mahatattva, Pradhana, then Mahatattva in goodness, Mahatattva in passion, then Mahatattva in ignorance is ego. From ego falls from Ahankara in goodness, sense devatas, from Ahankara in passion, senses and intelligence, goodness, sense devatas and mind, and then in ignorance, tanmatras and the middle elements. So now everything is created in different ways, all the limbs. Now it has to be assembled. The Jivatma has to be assembled and given life. So that is called as Karya Srishti. How it is done? By the material nature. Like if any of the production companies, different parts, like if you want to manufacture a car, tire is manufactured, rim of the tire is manufactured, the crankshaft is manufactured, the steering wheel is manufactured, the steering rod is manufactured, then the gears are manufactured, then the cushion, seats, front air balloons, all are manufactured differently. Then at one point of time it is assembled, and what comes out is SUV, TUV, latest model of sports vehicles, terrain vehicles, sport cars, they come out. So similarly, till now different parts have been manufactured. Now they have to be assembled, and the Jivatma is given life. So for that reason, the Lord has to come as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, enter the universe and take life, and also give life to all living entities. He has to become the super soul of the universe. He has to become super soul of the Jivatma, and also the Jivatma who want to enjoy, they have to enter inside. So this is what is going to happen in Karya Srishti. Yes, next devotee can read 32nd shloka.
Translation. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature, are not assembled.
Yes, Mother, you can read.
Purport. The different types of bodily construction of the living entities are exactly like different types of motor cars manufactured by assembling the allied motor parts. When the car is ready, the driver sits in the car and moves it as he desires. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 18.61. The living entity is as if seated on the machine of the body, and the car of the body is moving by the control of material nature, just as the railway trains are moving under the direction of the controller. The living entities, however, are not the bodies. They are separate from the cars of the body. But the less intelligent material scientists cannot understand the process of assembling the parts of the body, namely the senses, the mind, and the qualities of the material modes. Every living entity is a spiritual spark, part and parcel of the Supreme Being, and by the kindness of the Lord, for the Father is kind to his sons, The individual living beings are given a little freedom to act according to their will to lord it over the material nature. Just as a father gives some playthings to the crying child to satisfy him, the whole material creation is made possible by the will of the Lord to allow the bewildered living entities to lord it over things as they desire, although under the control of the agent of the Lord. The living entities are exactly like small children playing the material field under the control of the maidservant of the Lord, nature. They accept the Maya or the maidservant as all in all and thus wrongly conceive the supreme truth to be feminine, goddess Durga, etc. The foolish, childlike materialists cannot reach beyond the conception of the maidservant material nature, but the intelligent grown-up sons of the Lord know well that all the acts of material nature are controlled by the Lord, just as a maidservant is under the control of the master, the father of the undeveloped children. The parts of the body, such as the senses, are the creation of the Mahat Tattva, and when they are assembled by the will of the Lord, the material body comes into existence and the living entity is allowed to use it for further activities. This is explained as follows.
So in this Prabhupada is giving a reason for why there is so much of Devi worship, because Durga Devi or Kalika, Chandika, because the whole body is coming from the nature, and that is the reason the Shaktas, they want to enjoy. That is the reason they worship. But actually, that Shakti is also of Shaktiman, that is of Krishna. Therefore, the father is compared to Krishna, and the maid servant is compared to the material nature, Durga. The living entities, rebellious, they are put under her care, and those who reform, they are directly. For example, sometimes small children, they don't study. Therefore, sometimes parents have to send them to boarding schools or tuition teachers, because they can't discipline them because of affection. But the tuition teacher or the boarding school people, they nicely discipline them. Therefore, living entity who's rebellious, this material world is like a boarding school, and the spiritual world is like a home. Radha Krishna are our parents, and those who are naughty living entities like all of us, they are put in the boarding school where Durga Devi is trying to discipline us with Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmik Klesh. And fortunate souls, Sumedasa, they learn it very nicely and take up chanting Hare Krishna, they get connected to ISKCON and start reforming their heart. So therefore, this is how the process of creation is a compassionate cause for creation. If we understand creation, we can understand how much the Lord is so compassionate for the living entity to come back to Him. So assembly. So this is Karya Srishti. Tada samhatya chanonyam Bhagavat Shakti Choditaha Sad Asatvam Upadhyaya Chobhayam Shashrujar Hi Adaha Shashrujar Prada. Yes. Next. Yes, Suryakantu.
When all these became assembled by the force of the energy of the Supreme Personality of it, this universe certainly came to being by accepting both the primary and secondary causes of creation. But in this verse, it is clearly mentioned that the Supreme Personality of Godhead exerts different energies in the creation. It is not that he himself is transformed into material creations. He expands himself by different energies as well as by his plenary portions. In a corner of the spiritual kind, Brahma Jyoti, the spiritual cloud sometimes appears, and the covered portion of the Mahat Tattva and the water is called a causal ocean, Kanajal. While Mahavishnu sleeps within the causal ocean, innumerable are generated along with his breathing. These universes are floating and they are scattered all over the causal ocean. They stay only during the breathing period of Mahavishnu in each and every
Universal.
Say Mahavishnu enters again the Garbhodaksha Vishnu and lies there on the serpent-like sea incarnation. From his navel sprouts a lotus stem, and the Lord Brahma, the Lord of the universes, universe Brahma creates all the forms of living beings of all different shapes in terms of different desires. He also creates the sun god, the moon god, and other demigods. Therefore, the chief engineer of the material creation, the Lord himself, has confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. It is only who directs the material nature to produce all sorts of moving and non-moving creations. There are two modes of material creation: the creation of the collective universes, as stated above, done by the Mahavishnu, and the creation of single new universe. Both are done by the Lord. Under the universal shape, as we can see, it takes place.
Yes. So Karya Srishti, material nature does all the different parts, and then Lord assembles it. Primary by Lord Vishnu, secondary by Lord Brahma. Varshapuga sahasrante tad andam udake sayam kala karma swabhavasto jivo jivam ajivayat. Yes, next devotee can read. Who is the next devotee?
Sorry. Thus, all the universes remain thousands of eons within the water, the causal ocean, and the Lord of living beings entering in each of them cause them to be fully animated.
So therefore, now creation is going to happen. All the universes which are coming from the course of Mahavishnu, they're inside the causal ocean, the junction of the material world and spiritual world. And the Lord of the living being, Mahavishnu, is lying, and from his breath, all the universe are coming. So they are remaining animated in it. So then what happens? Then who's going to give life to it? Garbhodaksha Vishnu gives life to it. So Mahavishnu, from his course, all universe come. They are floating in the Karana ocean. Then Mahavishnu expands as Garbhodaksha Vishnu to give Garbha, or life to the universe. And then he becomes super soul of the universe and living entities as Kshirodaksha Vishnu. Yes, Mataji, please read the purport.
The Lord is described here as the Jiva because he is the leader of other Jivas, living entities. In the Vedas, he is described as the Nitya, the leader of all other Nityas. The Lord's relation with the living entities like that of the father with the sons. The sons and the father are qualitatively equal, but the father is never the son, nor is the son ever the father who begets. So, as described above, the Lord I described about the Lord as Garbhodaksha Vishnu or Hiranyagarbha, super soul enters into each and every universe and causes it to be animated by begetting the living entities within the womb of the material nature, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14.3. After each annihilation of the material creation, all the living entities are merged within the body of the Lord, and after creation, they are again impregnated within the material energy. In the material existence, therefore, the material energy is seemingly the mother of the living entity, and the Lord is the father. When, however, the animation takes place, the living entities revive their own natural activities under the spell of the time and energy, and thus the varieties of living beings are manifested. The Lord, therefore, is ultimately the cause of all animation in the material world.
Yes. So here now Garbhodaksha Vishnu is entering inside the each and every universe to give life to it. Saiva Purushas Tasmad Andam Nirvidya Nirgatah Sahasrorsvangri Bhavaksha Sahasranana Sirsavan. Yes. Who's next? Who is not who's remaining to read now?
The Lord Mahavishnu, although lying in the casual state, came out of it and dividing himself as Hiranyagarbha, he entered into each universe and assembled the Virat Rupa with thousands of legs, arms, lungs, heads.
Okay, it was not audible. I'll read it once again. Although lying in the causal ocean, Mahavishnu came out of it, that is Karmadaksha Vishnu, dividing himself as Hiranyagarbha, that is Garbhodaksha Vishnu. He entered into each universe and assumed the Virat Rupa with thousands of legs, arms, mouths, heads. It is Sahasra Shirsha Purusha. The expansion of planetary system within each and every universe are situated in the different parts of the Virat Rupa. of the Lord, and they are described as follows. Basically, already you have seen this in first chapter, second chapter, Virat Rupa. What is this Virat Rupa? Virat Rupa is the universe itself has no life. Life comes from life. So the universe has been created. Mahavishnu expands and goes and becomes Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And he becomes a Garbha lying down at the bottom of the universe. From his navel comes Brahmaji. So from the Brahmaji to Garbhodaksha Vishnu, in between there are 14 planetary systems. So these 14 planetary systems are situated on the stem which is coming from Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Or some of the transcendentalists, they see these 14 planetary systems as a representation of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And therefore it's called as Hiranya Garbha. So expansions of the planetary systems in each and every universe are situated in the different parts of the Virata Rupa of the Lord. And this Virata Rupa, for some of them, they can't directly pursue. This is called as pantheism. It comes in first, second chapter of the second canto. Those who cannot, they are not fortunate to directly understand Vishnu, personalist aspect, in the form of in between Dhyana and Ashtanga, there is a process called as pantheism. So therefore they assume this material nature, this whole universe, they try to see God in that. But what is that representation? It is the whole planet systems are existing on the stem arising from Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So therefore here those that is being compared to the Virata Rupa form of the Lord in 35th shloka. So Garbhodaksha Vishnu for them is Virata Rupa. Yasyehe Yasyehava Vayar Lokan Kalpayanti Manishina Kat Adivir Adas Sapta Saptordvaham Jaganadivi. So how they pursue the Virata Rupa is mentioned here. Yes. Someone can read? Yes, Mataji.
Great philosophers imagine that the complete planetary system in the universe are displays of the different upper and lower limbs of the universal body of the Lord. The word kalpayanti or imagine is significant. The Virat universal form of the Absolute is an imagination of the speculative philosophers who are unable to adjust to the eternal two-handed form of Lord Sri Krishna. Although the universal form as imagined by the great philosophers is one of the features of the Lord, it is more or less imaginary. It is said that the 7 upper planetary systems are situated above the west of the universal form, whereas the lower planetary systems are situated below his west. The idea impressed herein is that the Supreme Lord is conscious of every part of his body, and now here in the creation, is there anything beyond his control?
Yes. Therefore, those who are, they cannot come to the position of bhakti, somewhere between Ashtanga and Jnana, they follow this process of Kalpayanti, that is Virata. Purushasya mukam brahma kshatram etasya bahava purvorvaishyo bhagavata padyam shudra vyajayatah. So therefore from this universal form Virata Rupa, from mouth come Brahmanas, from the hands come Kshatriyas, from the stomach or the waist comes the Vaishyas, and from the feet comes the Shudras. So that is being mentioned here. So Brahmanas represent his mouth, Kshatriyas his arms, Vaishyas his thighs, and Shudras are born of his legs. So this Varnashram society, Varna and Ashrama, which because this living entity gets a material body. Similarly, the Lord Garbhodaksha Vishnu, he creates a system, our Lord creates a system by which this material world can function. Therefore, he compares the living entity accepting the material body and Lord being compared here to the universal form. He creates the class of society, Varna and Ashrama, by which the society can function. So that is what Prabhupada writes in the whole purport here. Burloka Kalpita Padhyam Bhuvarloka Syanabhitah Hridayasvarloka Urasa Maharloka Mahatmanaha. Yes. Next devotee.
Translation. The lower planetary systems up to the limit of the earthly stratum are said to be situated in his legs. The middle planetary systems, beginning from Bhuvarloka, are situated in his navel, and the higher planetary systems occupied by the demigods and highly cultured sages and saints are situated in the chest of the Supreme Lord.
So what are different planetary positions? Please read the purport.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There are 14 spheres of planetary systems within this universe. The lower systems are called Bhuvarloka, the middle systems are called Bhuvarloka, and the higher planetary systems up to the Brahmaloka, the highest planetary system of the universe, are called Swarloka, and all of them are situated on the body of the Lord. In other words, no one within this universe is without a relationship with the Lord.
Yes. Privayam Janalokasya Tapalokastana Dvayat Murdadvi Satyalokastu Brahmaloka Sanatanaha.
From the forefront of the chest up to the neck of the universal form of the Lord are situated the planetary systems called Janaloka and Tapoloka, whereas Satyalok, the topmost planetary system, is situated on the head of the form. The spiritual planets, however, are eternal.
Yeah. So there are 14 planetary systems are compared to from feet to head, and spiritual planet is above, beyond it. Yes. So the purport speaks about different portions of the planetary system. Roji can read here.
According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Brahmaloka is the lok or abode of Brahman or the Supreme Lord. In the spiritual sky, all the planets are as good as the Lord himself. The Lord is all spirit, and his name, fame, glories, qualities, pastimes, etc. are all non-different from him, because he is absolute. As such, the planets in the kingdom of God are also non-different from him. In those planets, there is no difference between the body and the soul, nor is there any influence of the time as we experience it in the material world. And in addition to there being no influence of time, the planets in Brahmaloka, due to being spiritual, are never annihilated. All variegatedness in the spiritual planets is also one with the Lord, and therefore the Vedic aphorism, Ekam Evadvityam, is fully realized in that Sanatan atmosphere of spiritual variegatedness. This material world is only a shadow phantasmagoria of the spiritual kingdom of the Lord.
Yes.
And because it is a shadow, it is never eternal. The
Yes.
variegatedness in the material world of duality, spirit and matter, cannot be compared to that of the spiritual world.
Yeah. Yes, Proji, 1 minute. Basically, what is being told here is this Satyaloka. In the shloka it comes. Griyavan Jana Lokasya Tapalokastan Dvayat on his chest, Murdhavi Satyalokastu, and on his head, and beyond the head of the universe was Brahmaloka. So basically, according to Jiva Goswami's Brahmaloka is Sanatanaha. This Brahmaloka is not the four-headed Brahma or 16-head. It's not the place of Brahmaji. It's a spiritual world. And the four Kumaras, when they went to Vaikunta, or Durvasa Muni when he goes to Vaikunta, this is the Vaikunta planet within the material world, which is beyond the Satyaloka of Brahmaji. That is the eternal place. That is what is a section here. Because people who are embodied, they can't go to the spiritual world beyond this universe. So they get to go to this Vaikuntha Loka, which is present at the top of Brahmaji. That is what Jiva Goswami mentions here in this purport. This is what I wanted to explain to all of you. That is the reason I asked you to read that thing. Okay, so we'll conclude the last shlokas. Tat katayam chatalam klaptam rubham vitalam vibho janubhyam sutalam shuddham jangyabhyam tu talatalam Mahatalam tu gulpabhyam prapadhabhyam rasatalam Patalam Padatalata Talata Iti Lokamaya Puman. So what are different lokas on, what are the names on which position of the Lord? Yes. So my dear son Narada, know from me that there are 7 lower planetary systems out of the total 14. The first planetary system, known as Atala, is situated on the waist of the universal form. Second, Vitala is situated on the thighs, Sutala on the knees, Talatala on the shanks, Mahatala on the ankles, Rasatala on the upper portion of the feet, and Patala on the soles. Thus, Virata form of the Lord is full of planetary systems. So there are 3 different: middle, upper, and lower. So upper planet are described. Now the lower planets are being described here. And Prabhupada quotes Brahmaji's, the modern astronauts can travel only a few seconds, 1,000 miles away from the Earth, and therefore they attempt to travel in the sky something like child's play on the shore of expansive ocean. The moon is situated on the 3rd status of the upper planetary system, 5th canto Bhagavatam. Basically, Prabhupada is trying to tell, according to modern people, modern scientists, they can't understand these 14 planetary systems because they're just like children playing on this beach and trying to understand the depth of the ocean. That is what Prabhupada says here. Concluding here, only by attainment of a service attitude in the transcendental position can one enter into the kingdom of God. Therefore, speculative philosophers as well as the mystics must first of all be attracted to the devotional cult before they can actually attain liberation. So what one has to do for liberation? One has to purify one's ego. Without that, it becomes very, very difficult. So last shloka of the chapter today. भूर्लोका कल्पिता पद्भ्याम भुवर्लोका स्यानावितः स्वर्लोका कल्पितो मृत्ना इति वा लोक कल्पनः. This is regarding middle planetary systems. Others may divide the whole planetary system into 3 divisions, namely the lower planetary system on the legs up to the earth, middle planetary systems on the navel, the upper planetary system, Swarloka from the chest to the head of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The 3 divisions of the complete planetary systems are here mentioned. 14 are imagined by others, and that is also explained. So now, this creation has brought to the point of universal form, Sahasra Shirsha Purusha. And Rig Veda glorifies this Sahasra Shirsha Purusha in the form of a universal form, the representation of Hiranyagarbha, or who is Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So the prayers which are offered to the Hiranyagarbha, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Sahasra Shirsha Purusha by Brahmaji in the Brahmaloka is called as Purusha Shukta. So the 6th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam is nothing but Purusha Shukta confirmed. Okay, that is the connection to the next chapter. So Lord Mahavishnu creates Pradhana, Swabhava, Karma, Kala, then he creates Mahatattva in Rajas, Tamas, and Tejasa, and from Ahankara in ignorance comes senses, sense objects, Tanmatras, and elements. Ahankara and passion comes Indriyas and intelligence, and Ahankara and goodness comes Devatas and the mind. This is called as Karana Srishti. And Karya Srishti is assembling of all these things by Mahavishnu, and how Garbhodaksha Vishnu enters inside, and how the universe comes to life by the presence of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So now Garbhodaksha Vishnu has entered inside the universe, so it has brought to life. Same Garbhodaksha Vishnu is going to enter as super soul, and he is going to animate the body with the Jivatmas. This is how the question of Yat Srishtam is being answered by Brahmaji. Hare Krishna. So I have concluded this 5th chapter of Bhagavatam. We will continue the 6th chapter in the next weekend. And basically tomorrow, not next weekend, tomorrow itself. So any questions? Apart from open book assignment, which I want to send it to Anuj Paul.
Prabhuji, whether this creation is still like it is still going on? I mean, whether Mahavishnu is still lying and whether all universes are still, whether that process is still going on or how it is?
Right now we are active, so we are animated now. So creation lila is also eternal lila. Right now maintenance lila is going on.
Okay.
So creation happens when we are not conscious. Annihilation is also when we are not conscious. In between, when we are conscious, it's a maintenance part is going on.
So now other Brahmandas are coming out, or our Brahmanda?
What happens is, Proji, like time factor, we are under the time factor, na? Grip of time factor. But Vishnu is beyond time factor. So the way he plays with the material energy is in so way is like Lord Krishna is sitting with all the covered boys, and all the covered boys are feeling that Lord is seeing me only. He can so wonderfully orchestrate his yoga maya potency. Similarly, different Brahmas with 4 headed, 16 headed, 32 headed, 164 headed, 532 headed Brahmas are there. But with one breath of Mahavishnu, all these Brahmas they come out and they also go back with one breath of Mahavishnu. It's so intricate. It's a higher dimensional mechanics which we can't understand.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hope you all could comprehend this technical aspect of this chapter. Detail is different. Principle we understand that Lord Vishnu is the primary creator, Brahma is secondary creator, and Mahatattva, Pradhana, Ahankara, all these things. At least these notations, symbols, if you understand, that is more than enough. Detail wise, it's very difficult to comprehend. Okay. So we'll stop here then. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Bhaktivedanta ki jai. We'll continue tomorrow 6.
Thank you so much.